Well, hello everyone. This is Urshel Metcalf, and I wanted to go ahead and welcome you all to our coaching session today and let you all know that I'm very happy to be coaching with you and learning together with you. I want to start out by saying happy Thanksgiving for everyone who will be listening to this call or on this call this week. And I'm going to go ahead and mute the lines now as we normally do for the group coaching call. And then afterwards,
You
if
are now
there are some
unmuted.
questions, feel free to join in after we unmute the calls. Also, you can email me. My email address is Urshel, URSHEL at gmail.com. You'll also have it. You should have emails from me as well. Just wanted to make sure that you have that and ways to get in touch with me, any ideas or thoughts. I'm really looking forward as we come to the end of the year in sharing with you about and learning from you as well about your business plans for next year, your goals. I want to make sure that we all have good, solid business plans as we move into the new year and some tracks to run on to make sure that the goals that we set, the business plans that we have, that we will see them accomplished. And I want to partner with you in doing that. So definitely, if you have your GPS or if you've already done your 135, I'd love to take a look at that. I'd love for you to email that to me and begin to work with you moving forward towards that and towards individual coaching as well. I know the group coaching has been a benefit to those of you that are participating in it, but we definitely want to use it as a springboard to get into some more focused, individualized coaching as we move forward to really see your business take off and move in the direction that you want it to. Okay, well, great. Today, we're going to be still in, this is the 8th session, and we want to be discussing the 4 C's of a sales presentation. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. And so yeah, here we are, the 4 C's of a sales presentation. As professional sales men and women, one of the things that we know that we have to do is we have to master the art of the sale. Every entrepreneur, business owner, as you see here, must master the art and skill of selling. That is how we have people that want to do business with us. So simply, we have to understand that selling is not some innate gift. It's not something that some people can do and other people can't. Some people may be more predisposed to the techniques of selling, but I want to make sure that we understand that it's an art and it's a skill. It's something that we can practice and perfect and get better at. Selling is a process. It's not an event. When I first started my first sales position as an adult, I had a couple when I was a teenager, but as an adult, my first selling opportunity was with an insurance company. And I may talk about some of my previous experiences as examples as we move forward. But in that context, there was a lot of what they called one call closes, and they encouraged that. Get in, get the check, and get out, And that was really, even though we said it was about relationship and it was for the long term, it was really a transactional mindset. The difference between the mentality when I go to Walmart to get some diapers, I'm not really expecting a relationship with the cashier. But having said that, when I have a cashier or a waiter or a waitress that actually takes the time to make a significant connection, you feel that and you appreciate it. At least I do. But we want to know that selling is not just an event, it's a process. And in that process, there are things that we want to go through, and we want to be fairly systematic about it to make sure that we can not only increase our effectiveness, but we can also better evaluate our process and know where we are good, know where we are great, and know where we need some improvement and some work. And so when we think about the selling process, it's easy for us if we flip that over and think about the buying process. All of us are buyers and all of us are sellers. And so when we want to buy something, there's just a few things that need to happen. First of all, we have to have some level of interest. It has to get our attention in some way. And we decide whether we need it, we want it, we like it, if it's attractive to us. Excuse me. And also, we have to decide whether I believe it will do what it says. Will it live up to the packaging? Will this person live up to their promises? And then the fourth thing is we just justify based on is it worth the money? And pardon me, just a second. So, and that's about the value. Is it worth the money? So when we think about that and mirroring the buying process, because we've all been on and will be on, continue to be on the buying side of things, we want to think about taking someone down that buying process with our selling process. So it builds on relationship, trust, and credibility. And we know this because we do business with people we know, like, and trust. And so we can't really be known without some level of relationship and developing that and being likable, being agreeable, making sure that not that we're just putting our best foot forward, but we're the type of person that they want to do business with, as well as they being the type of people that we want to do business with. And then also developing that trust and credibility. It's all very important in the process, especially with many of our businesses where we know that, again, it's not just transactional, it's relational, because not only do we want them to be a client or a customer, we want them to be a repeat client and customer, and we also want them to eventually be advocates for us. And so without the relationship, the trust, and the credibility, it's very unlikely that those things would happen in that process. So the entrepreneur selling system is the 4 C's: curiosity, connection, conviction, and commitment. That's the 4 C's: curiosity, connection, conviction, and commitment. All right? So these are the 4 C's of the selling process, and we're going to walk through that. But first, in the preparation of it, that's where the magic is. We have to be prepared. Now, I will admit that most of my life, I've been a person that's been really excited to fly by the seat of my pants. I've normally been a good talker and good connecting with people. And so there's been lots of times where I thought that I could just wing it. But the reality, it didn't take me long to figure out that if I just wing it, if I only just, go by the seat of my pants, 1, not everybody can fly by the seat of my pants. 2, I can't be consistent, and it makes it really difficult to measure my results, to measure my effectiveness just based on how I might be feeling, because we're not all always on. We're not always on our best. We're not always reading people perfectly every single time. So sometimes we're wrong, and we want to make sure that every person that we're sitting in front of is getting a well thought out, a well planned presentation that's going to cover the bases that we need to be able to close the sale. So the first thing is knowing your value proposition. What really is the value that you bring? What is really the problem that you solve? What's the thing that comes from you that they will now have in their life as a result of doing business to you? We need to be very clear with that. We need to be able to deliver that with confidence and clarity. If you've heard me speak or after our relationship grows, one of the things that you'll probably hear me say from time to time is something that I heard when I was in ministry vocationally, and that was, if it's a mist in the pulpit, it's a fog in the pew. And I'll say that again: if it's a mist in the pulpit, it's a fog in the pew. So the reason why I share that is because if you're not really clear on your value proposition, then they won't be either. They will have no idea, even though you kind of have an idea. So that's something that you need to make very clear. You need to be able to share that. those people that are advocates for your business, they should know and understand and be able to share your value proposition as well. You want to be able to articulate the benefits to your customers and clients. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, but there's a difference between the features and benefits, and we really want to make sure that they understand the benefits. So prior to the sales presentation, we want to understand what benefits we're delivering to our clients. We want to understand how they feel, and this is really, really important. People, based on the psychology of selling, people will buy and make the decision to buy based on their feeling. It's an emotional decision to buy. Then they will justify it with reason after their emotions have already gotten there. So the emotion comes first. So we need to understand, connect with their feelings, ask questions, pay attention, so that we're connected to what they're feeling as we go through the selling process, or what they're feeling prior to us even beginning our sales process. Follow a planned and intentional process of presentation. We're going to talk a lot about that today. And staying in touch with where they are. It's very easy, and I think we've all seen it, where someone is so involved in their talking and in their sales process that the reality is that they have left the prospect or the potential client way behind, and there's been a disconnect long before they've actually finished. And so sometimes the salesperson hasn't finished yet, but the prospect has finished a long time before because there was a disconnect. So we want to make sure that we're staying connected with them as we go through the process, okay, of our sales presentation. So preparation is extremely important. Okay, a sales presentation, and if you've been a part of Master Networks for any amount of time, you have gone through the bond and understand the bond process. So we're going to talk about that just a little bit. But it's really a very focused version of bond. In bond, we build on common interest. This is the curiosity and the connection aspect of it, the occupational exploration, really getting to know. And of course, every person may not be a business person, but we're still exploring them and who they are and their life and getting to understand them. We want to make sure that we're getting into the needs discovery. What are the things that they need? What is the reason why they were willing to sit down and to talk to us, believing that there's something that we could provide, something that we could do, some way that we could connect with their situation and their concern and make their life better, or buy from us, or allow us to provide a service for them. What is the reason? So we want to explore and get all of the information that we can. And the reason why this is important, obviously building on the common interest and making some connections, getting to know who they are, and then understanding their situation. Because if we do this part really well and moving into the needs discovery, the more effective we are in doing that, what the prospect or potential client will do for us in that time is they will actually give us the information that we need to get to the end of the process, which is to close them. As we make that connection with them, they will provide us with the sales information that we need to close the business and to move forward. Again, moving into the needs discovery, understanding why, what, the pain that they're feeling, the lack that they have, what in their life could be better as they do business with us, regardless of what our business is, what their needs are. Do they need to feel better, look better, more efficiency in their home? Do they need a better credit score? Whatever it is, we want to understand what it means to them, because our reason going into a situation, it's very possible our reason and our thought of why they should buy may be very different from what their felt need or their reason is. So we want to make sure that we connect with theirs instead of imputing what we think to them. And then obviously develop the opportunity. And this is our bond process. Once we really understand, we've made that connection, we've gone through the discovery process, then we want to present the opportunity that we can bring into their life by doing business with us, by buying from us, by hiring us, whatever the case may be. And so that is really the focused version of bond that we're going to apply. And that's why bond is something when we practice it in our networking group, when we practice it in the encounters that we have, when we practice it in face-to-face meetings with people that we come across in whatever context, we want to build this system in our way of doing things so that it's natural, that we're not thinking about it. It's the way that we interact with people that may be potential clients or customers or business partners or strategic partners, because we're actually connecting with them in a way that's systematic and it's built in and it's automatic as well. We want to go from it being systematic, something that we think about and that we pace, to being something that's automatic. It's just something that we do. And so we have a greater level of effectiveness because it's second nature to it. Okay, so it's a track. The sales presentation is a track for us to run on. When we have an effective and developed sales presentation and we run that over and over again, it's, again, think about it as a track athlete. When I ran track and I ran the 440, which is, to me, the most difficult race that there is in a track meet, because it's a sprint, but it's long. You have to be really strong, but you could divide that race up into the 4 parts of it, including your start and your finish, really 6 parts of it: how quickly you get out of the blocks, how well you did on the first 100 meters, that first curve, how well you did on the first straightaway, and how good was your lean and your effectiveness in that third curve, and then, of course, bringing it home on that last straightaway, and then if you were strong enough to have any kick at the end. So you could break down that one race into at least 6 parts. And then you can also, depending on what lane you were in. But the reason why I point that out is because when you have an effective and clearly defined track for your sales presentation, then as you move along your sales presentation, you can evaluate, where did I win? Where did I lose? What was effective? What wasn't? If I had agreement and everything seemed to be going well up until this point, is there something I can fix? But it gives me a consistent way to approach my sales process, not being a robot, but being consistent so that I can make adjustments, improvements, additions, deletions, whatever, so that I can be more effective and get better results. And it's also our sales presentation. It's a process of mutual discovery. We want to get to know them. We want to connect with them and have them connect with and get to know us as well. So we're discovering each other because, again, we don't want to just be transactional unless your business is only transactional, but that's very rare. But even if it is, even for the people who have transactional business, meaning it doesn't require a relationship, you still want them to become advocates so that they can go out and tell other people that you're the person to do business with. So we always want that level of mutual discovery because they have the choice of whether they're going to do business with us and whether they're going to advocate for us as well. So the first C in the 4 C's of the entrepreneur sales process is curiosity. Curiosity is where we get to know them. We want to be genuinely interested. Again, that first sales opportunity that I had, and I was selling insurance, it really, although we said it really wasn't about getting to know them. It was boom, 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 and we want to get the check and we want to get out. We want to get it closed. We don't want you to think about it, because we knew in the context of what we were selling that they were going to be, our primary client was going to be contacted literally by dozens of people. And so we wanted to get in first and get out with the check and not give them that much to think about. And that's not really a way to do business, in my opinion, and it's not how I like to do business. But we want to be genuinely interested in them and who they are and make them feel that, because we all do. We all know when someone's genuine and when they're genuinely interested in us, or when they're just waiting for us to stop talking so that they can continue with whatever they had on their mind. And in doing that, we want to ask great open-ended questions, the who and the what, the when and the where questions, and really, develop that connection there. Again, in my first selling opportunities, one of the things that I did sell, and we'll talk a little bit about this in a minute, was long-term care. My market was the senior market. And so it was very common, when I would sit down with someone to find out that they weren't originally from Dallas. And so a closed-ended way to ask that question is, have you lived here all your life? And depending on their mood or their attitude, they might say no, and then just sit there. And so then you have to ask a few more questions. And it was interesting how many people would continue to ask questions that they could answer with a yes or a no, and then not really get anywhere in the connection of the process. So instead of, have you lived here all your life? No. Well, do you like it here? No. And it starts a really negative process. So what I would do in a lot of those cases would ask, well, how long have you lived here and in this area? And so that gives a little bit of opening up without, asking them to be in order. And, oh, really? Well, where have you lived most of your life? Where did you have your career? A lot of them were retired. And but one of the things that I found out by asking those open-ended questions, and this leads into our next point, is that since I was working in the senior market, I found out that one of the greatest forces in the world to move people from one location to the next was what? Grandchildren. So many of the people that I talked to had relocated to the Dallas-Fort Worth area because their grandchildren were here. And because I was asking those open-ended questions, and then I said, oh, well, tell me about your grandchildren. What are their ages? Do they live nearby? Do you guys babysit often? And get them talking about what's important to them. And grandchildren, obviously, was one of those things that was very important, but it allows me to start getting into their life and listening to what and who's important to them. Also allowed me to know, about their children and other people that I might be able to do business with because they know them and they care about them. So we want to listen carefully. Taking notes is a good thing. Sometimes using a recorder, most of us could do that with our cell phones. We always want to make sure that if we do that, that we ask permission prior to just assuming that that would be okay. So we want to make sure that we're listening, taking notes, or at a very minimum, once you get to your car or back to your office, as soon as you can, jot down all the pertinent things that you can remember, because it becomes valuable later that you remember the things that they discussed and the things that they shared with you, and recognizing that they're actually sharing their lives with you when they begin to open up and tell you about themselves. And also, the curiosity goes both ways. You want to get them interested and curious about you. And some good ways to do that are say, one of the things that I'm excited about with what I do, and, I'm committed to making sure, if I'm a landscaper, I could say that, I have 10 clients in the past 2 years who have gotten Yard of the Month multiple times because I do their landscaping. And when they get awarded for Yard of the Month and I give them a discount for the next one, whatever the case may be, you want to let them know a little bit about you, your passion, why you're doing what you're doing, and what makes you more valuable and better than the next guy or girl that may be trying to sell them the same thing. Let them connect with you. Again, when I was selling long-term care, I would share with the people that I sat in front, I would share my story about long-term care. And I would tell them, I started in this business at a time that economically wasn't a good time to be changing careers. And so everything that I had to offer to me was just a commission. I needed to sit in front of people. I needed to do a good job of selling. I needed to get them to write a check because I needed to get paid. It was simply a commission. But once I understood, and this is what I would say to them, and I would lean forward and I would look at them, once I understood what long-term care insurance really is, how it really works, and what it can really do for a family, it changed everything for me because my father died of cancer at 52. My mother had several strokes and became permanently disabled at 59. My grandmother had several strokes, and she eventually passed away after being disabled for a long period of time. My grandfather was sick for a while before he passed away, my aunt. And so the list for me goes on and on. And what I would share with them is if I could go back 30 years, if I could go back, to my teenage years or the beginning of my adult life, and if I was responsible for making the decision and they passed a law that said, in your lifetime, for you and your family, you can only purchase two types of insurance, then I know for a fact that I would have not chosen car insurance. I would have not chosen homeowners insurance. There's a whole bunch of types of insurance that we have that are good, and I'm not saying that they're bad. But if I had to choose two, then I know for a fact that one of them would have been long-term care insurance. And the reason why is my father, those last couple of years when he was barely able to work any of that time, and he was going through dialysis and different things, um, the dignity that it cost him, the fact that everything, for my mother, everything for my grandmother, all of the money, all of the resources had to go to getting as much care as was possible. And everybody's life had to be impacted. Everyone's life had to be changed. My mother had lived with my brother. My mother had lived with me. There were so many different things. Everybody's life was impacted in a way that wasn't the way that any of us would have chosen. And it would have been so much better if we were educated on long-term care. If we had long-term care, it would have made my father's past, the last couple of years, totally different for him. I would still be taking care of my father today if he were alive and would have no regrets about that. So it didn't make that much of a difference for me, but it made a huge difference for him. And I would share my family story and how for everybody else in the past, it's too late. But for us going forward, I do a good job of trying to educate my family members and making sure that they know the value and how it could change those last few years. And sometimes those last few years are more than a few. Sometimes it may be a decade. And so as I would share that, they would know at that point, this isn't just about a sale for him. He believes in it. There's passion that's tied to, and he knows how to make sure that it can help my family the way that he wishes it would have helped his family in the past and the way that he plans for it to help possibly his family in the future. So that gets them interested in me. And we'll move forward, moving from curiosity to the connection. So we want to ask about their life, their businesses, their challenges. Look for their needs, their wants, and their issues, and get a feeling of how you can really help them, how you can really deliver value to their life. That's really the key. And we want to have questions that guide them to what you have to offer. We don't want to just talk and interact aimlessly. Let's be specific. Outline, have down 10, questions that will guide them in the direction of what you plan to offer them or what you believe that can be their solution. If you have several solutions, then some of that you may have to figure out, but let's have something already in place that we know that we can begin to ask, to open up and to get them talking about that need, because they have to talk about it. They have to get it to front of mind and attach some feeling to it before we want to try to deliver a solution that they're not really feeling as a problem at that moment. And also, we want to determine if they're a prospect for us and our business, because they very well may not be. And I've had clients, and even recently, I've had people that I initially did not do business with. And I didn't do business with them because, sometimes I went into their situation and said, you know what, you're in great shape. You really don't need anything else. I would love to be able to make you a client, but you're in a good position. You're in a good place. And I would just like to be available to be a resource. If there's anyone that that falls into these categories, I would really appreciate it if you wouldn't mind sharing their information and connecting me with them. But you're really not a good client for me today. And I've had people that have appreciated that because they recognize that instead of trying to sell them, I gave them an honest evaluation of their situation. And sometimes I would even congratulate them. You made some great financial decisions, and you really put yourself in a great place. And you really got something to be proud of. And sometimes I would look at the spouse and say, you should really be proud of your spouse because they made some excellent decisions, and you guys are really in great shape. Because I want to keep the relationship even if they're not going to be a client at that moment, because we never know how things might change. And so that's a good thing that we want to do. And also in this connection, another type of question that I think it's very valuable to ask is, again, as an advisor, it's easy to ask questions like this. Tell me your experience in the past with previous financial advisors. And what were some of the things that you liked the most about your previous advisor? What were some of the things that you disliked the most, or was there anything that you really didn't like about the relationship and the business that you had with them? Again, by asking those types of questions, they're going to tell you how to communicate with them, how often. They're going to tell you all the things that you need to know. One, to not upset them and lose them as a client, and two, to go beyond their expectations and meet their needs and then some. Okay, so we want to make that connection. And then also conviction. That's the next one. Remember the sales presentation formula: feature, benefit, feeling. So we want to not just talk about the features. Again, the key fob when you go and buy a car that locks and unlocks your doors and sets off your alarm and that sort of thing. You don't want to just say, hey, here's the key fob and it's got 4 buttons here and it fits ergonomically into the hand and that sort of thing. Those are just features. But the benefits are, you have the safety of knowing that your car is locked and that the things that you have in your vehicle are secure, and the protection of knowing that if you feel uncomfortable in a situation, then you could hit the panic button, and at least that will draw people's attention. You want to talk about what it provides for them, the benefit, and wouldn't that make you feel more safe or even less frustrated when you're in the mall parking lot and you just forgot where you parked and you need to find your car, so you can hit the panic button and find your car. Again, this is the going from the features to the benefits of what the client, what the customer, what they now have after having done business. And then how wouldn't that make you feel better? Wouldn't that make you feel more secure? Wouldn't you feel more comfortable if so on? So you're connecting those feelings, because remember that they're going to make the purchase. They're going to make the decision to buy based on the feeling. Then they're going to justify it based on reason. Have your top benefits ready to offer. These are things that you want your client to know, that this is what you live and breathe, and this is what you think about, and this is what's important to you. And so make sure that you're ready with those offers, and provide evidence that you can do what you say you will do. And whatever, if it's roofing, it doesn't matter. It's not a bad thing to have pictures and to have evidence that shows that I can deliver on what I say I can deliver on. If your field or your craft requires certifications, or if you're qualified in different ways, you want to make sure that you present that so that they know that they're dealing with a quality person who has put the time and effort in to be good and to perfect and move towards perfection in their art or their craft. And all along the way, you want to be checking for agreement. Some people will smile, but you don't know whether they're with you. You want to be not only just looking for the head nod and the eye connection, but you want to be doing what we would call little pre-closes, is what we used to call them, and asking, wouldn't that be great if you have this? How would you feel if you had these things? Does that sound like something that would be of benefit to you? So you want to be checking for agreement with questions like that, and observing body language. And if there's, again, a husband and a wife, or if there's a couple of business partners, you want to key in on both people, so that, because there'll be a conversation after you leave. Okay, and then the fourth C is commitment. Ask for the order. Coffee is for closers. We want to make sure that we are closing the business. It doesn't matter how good you are at what you do. It doesn't matter how great your pricing is. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters if you don't get the business. And here's the thing that we need to remember. Until you get the business, you have not helped them. You may have educated them. You may have opened their eyes to some things, but you have not really helped them until you get the business. And obviously, you haven't helped yourself or your business either. So ask for the order. We want to be confident in the way that we do that. We want to be assertive. We don't want to feel like we're imposing by saying, okay, let's move forward. And so we want to use assertive language like, are we ready to go ahead? Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm excited. Okay, here are the next steps in the process. The things that I need to do and the information that I need to gather is this. And so let them know what you're committing to do and what commitments you're making and what you're going to need them to do, what information you're going to need from them, and how we're going together. And again, along that process, we're checking for agreement, making sure that they're okay with step number 1, step number 2, all the way to closing the business, to writing the check, to swiping the credit card, whatever the case may be. However that business is going to close, signing the contract, we want to make sure that we're checking for agreement as we're moving along that process of closing the business. We want to deal with any hesitations or delays. If, they sit back and, be direct. Ask the question, okay, well, I sense some hesitation. What are the things that are on your mind? And a good question to ask, is there anything in the way of us moving forward? And there's an interesting thing about asking that question that way. Is there anything in the way of us moving forward? People can be very predisposed to saying no. And in saying no, they feel like they're protecting themselves, that they're not being pushed into anything. So when you ask that question that way, is there anything in the way of us moving forward? You actually give them permission to say no, but they're giving you a yes. I'm going to say that again. You're giving them permission and the opportunity to say no, but they're giving you a yes. Is there anything in the way of us moving forward? No, this all sounds good. I really like what I'm hearing. I like what you have to say. Okay, great. Let's continue to move forward then. One of the things that I also want to encourage you to do is, as you go through your sales process, if there are objections and if there are things that you hear regularly, then what you want to do as you're keeping track of these things, you want to take those common objections and common concerns, and you want to find a way to answer those in your sales presentation prior to getting to this point. So you want the answers to those objections to be dealt with along the way. And when you do that, when you have those common objections and you put the answers to them in your sales presentation, again, those are places, backing up, those are places where you want to be checking for agreement. Wouldn't you agree that if this were the situation, that this would be an answer to that problem? Would you agree? Yes. So then that objection that you commonly get, you're dealing with it on the end. You won't be able to eliminate all objections, but if there are ones that you often get, you want to put those into your sales presentation. So we're going to reaffirm the benefits and the results that they're about to receive. I had a great example of this with the gentleman who's doing my web design and branding. He sent me a message and he said, I'm so excited that within 30 to 45 days, you're going to have 2 new websites, brand new branding and a social media strategy, and you're going to be well on your way to achieving your goals based on your web presence and social media activity. And I just thought that was great. I mean, he instantly put himself in partnership with me and saying that he was excited, but what he was doing was closing me. And he was bringing me to that point of saying, we're in agreement together, and I'm excited that you're going to purchase this service from me, this product, and this service. And I thought it was excellent. He was a young guy, and I was really impressed with his business acumen and the way that he did that. So let's put it all together. Prepare notes for the conviction step, the features, the benefits, the results, and feelings. Make sure that you've got those things together. Prepare the evidence, the facts, the research. It's not uncommon for me when I sit down with clients to show them, to bring them articles on different types of financial products or things that are being said by the Fed or the government, or to show people, and I'll even tell them, I want you to go Google 4%, meaning if you take out, if they still are of the mindset that they could take out 4% or 6% from their retirement nest egg, that if they do that, that there's a high probability that they'll run out of money before they run out of birthdays. So I will bring articles to them, or I will point them to articles, tell them to go Google things on their own so that they can see that what I'm saying is valid, and the approach that I'm taking to them in that regard for their retirement income is valid and is not just something that I'm saying. And so facts and research, endorsements, testimonials, and success stories. The best way to tell someone that you're great is to have someone else do it, to have someone else testify to your effectiveness, your efficiency, your proficiency, and your professionalism. That's something that's very important, and so we want to have those testimonials and success stories. If you don't have your own, maybe if you're new in your business, then borrow someone else's. Use the success stories of your company or people that you work with. Just make sure that they're true and that you can back them up. Use visuals where it's appropriate. Everyone is not an auditory learner. Some people are kinesthetic learners. Some people are more visual, so we want to make sure that when it's appropriate, use things that people can see or maybe touch so that they can connect with your product. We want to make the presentation comfortable and easy to follow. Make it a conversation. I mean, what we're doing here today, because this is group coaching, is much more like, me being a fire hydrant and just delivering a bunch of information. But when you're in that sales situation, you want to make it comfortable. You want to make it a conversation. You want to have enough interaction and conversation coming from them that you can gauge how they're feeling and their attitude about the process. So in mastering the 4 C's, we want to make sure that we practice the 4 C's. It should be a part of our life consistently. 1, because we're doing it in business. 2, because we're professionals, so professionals practice their craft and they practice their art. Unfortunately, one of the greatest catches in the NFL was made yesterday by a young man named Odell Beckham Jr. He made a great touchdown catch. He actually caught the ball with 3 fingers over his head, with his arms stretched out, falling down after having been fouled by one of the Dallas Cowboy defenders. And so that will be a great catch that people will look at for years. But one of the things that I really appreciated about that catch is they showed him in warm-ups prior to the game making catches very similar to that with one hand. So he's practicing what he can do on a high level, and he's making it a regular part of what he does so that when the time comes to deliver, he can be one of the greatest to play the game, is what he says his goal is. So we want to do it as a creative mental exercise. Make sure we're putting our thoughts, our creativity, and all of that into it. You want to rehearse. You can rehearse by yourself. One of the things that I've done with my sales presentations is I've sat in front of my computer, I've turned the webcam on, and I've acted as if there's another person on the other side of my computer. And I go through an entire sales presentation. I tell jokes, I just act like there's another person there. I even give pause and, wait for a response, imagine what they would say, and then go back and evaluate the effectiveness of my presentation and how it sounds, what makes sense. I practice with my wife and with my dog, whatever. Just make sure that you're practicing and then put it to work in your business. So you want to generate feeling. You want to feel the sense of power. You want to build your confidence in your presentation, and then enjoy the results and the fruits of your labor. I want to thank you. This is our time for today. I do have some handouts. If you're interested in that, I can email them to you if you will email me and let me know that you'd like that. So it would make it easier as you go back if you want to listen to this later. That will give you something to remember the things that we discussed. But again, I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to share this with you, to share this training with you, the 4 C's of the sales process for entrepreneurs. Have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you soon.